Thank you very much. Thank you very much, councillors. Can I have someone move a motion that we resume standing orders? Moved Councillor Hansford, seconded Councillor Kirby. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 7.10, the adoption of the Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy. Director Josipovic, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to endorse the waste strategy following community exhibition and receipt of submissions. Council endorsed the strategy to be publicly exhibited for a period of 4 weeks and received a total of 18 community submissions. These submissions have been reviewed and included in the final strategy. Most of the submissions relate to the implementation stage of the strategy. The Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy 2020 to 2030 will guide the way waste is managed in the Shire over the next 10 years. In terms of waste and resource recovery, the next step is planning for the implementation of the state government's Recycling Victoria policy. Officers have started the process by completing the registration of intent to develop a transition plan, and that was submitted on the 28th of July this year. The draft transition plan will have to be submitted to the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning by the 30th of September 2020. This is a prerequisite to access state funding with respect to implementation planning. The recommendation is that Council 1, note the submissions received during the public exhibition period, and 2, adopt the Golden Plains Shire Council Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy between 2020 and 2030. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Josipovic. Councillors, is there any questions? I'll seek a mover. Moving the motion, Councillor Gilbert. Seconding the motion, Councillor Kirby. Councillor Gilbert, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a note here that we began this journey of this waste resource recovery strategy some time ago, and that in November of 2018 we had put a survey out and we had a number of people reply to that survey. So there were actually 1,209 people who completed the survey. The general theme is that people think people want to put less rubbish into landfill. And I note that we've only had 18 submissions in relation to this actual document, but there's been a whole lot of community consultation leading up to this point now. I think waste management is an ongoing concern for council, but it's not just council's problem. It is everybody in our community's problem. And I think it's a start. We need to put this in by the end of September, and hopefully we'll get some funding to start rolling some of this stuff out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gilbert. Councillor Kirby, seconding the motion.
Thank you. Yes, part of the what has been released by the state government has been to introduce the container deposit scheme by 2023, a glass bin to be for recycling services by 2027, and a food and garden waste organics bin to be accessed or serviced by 2030. So I think taking this on hand, these are the things that we need to look forward to in the future. 2023 is not that far away. So I think all our residents can be confident that the council is heading in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kirby. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Evans.
Look, from the very beginning when this was started, I thought it was so premature it wasn't funny. The data that we got back was so inconclusive that it was more or less a waste of time. And in light of what the state government is now proposing, and we still don't know if that is even going to be on the table, and now with the situation we have at the moment going forward with COVID and the possible funding cutbacks that are going to be happening left, right and centre, I find this document to be so premature, it's not funny. And we would have been much better utilising our time and effort in other areas rather than try to put something together at the moment, which could be subject to major overhaul in the future. Now, we know people want to have recycling and this and that, but the basic truth of the matter is we have no system whatsoever to address that in Australia to the level of what we deem to be acceptable. And that is a long-term possibility. There's some issues raised in the document regarding waste to energy, although the council is trying to say that that is going to be from methane, organics. It also could potentially have plastics and garbage going to a energy plant, which is totally environmentally a disaster. So that needs to be clearly defined in the policy. But basically, this could have been left for another couple of years until we got to a position of knowing where the federal and state governments, who quite frankly have been so lazy in this space, it's ridiculous. And Councillor Phelan has rightly said for years that the money that we have been contributing to the tip levies have never been brought back to councils to address their recycling problems. And again, all of these issues are fundamental before you actually put together a planning document that's going to go for the term of time that this one is. And that's why I just think this has been a poor exercise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Evans. Would any councillor like to speak for the motion? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Sorry, Councillor Phelan, was that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'm not actually speaking against the motion, but I think I'll take on board what Councillor Evans has said, and I think that the strategy that the state government are trying to produce, where it's going to double our landfill contribution, it's going to produce 4 bins with glass and green waste, and the cost of that to the ratepayers is going to be astronomical. And I think if we look at 2 bins now, $350. 4 bins, my mathematics would say around 700, plus the doubling of the tip levy. And there's nowhere in there where the governments, whether it's state or federal, are going to help us. We are not responsible for the amount of waste going to the tip or the unrecyclable products that are being built. Government should legislate for that. They don't do it, and it lands on us. Just doesn't land on us as a council. It lands on every ratepayer in this state. And I think it's a disgrace that we're going to be lumbered with this in the near future. And I hope, I won't be here, but I hope someone's going to stand up and fight the government on this issue, because it's going to cost millions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phelan. Would any other councillor like to speak for or against the motion? With nobody else speaking for or against, I will seek Councillor Gilbert to close.
I don't think I can add much more. Councillor Phelan certainly does hit the nail on the head, and I take on board what Councillor Evans says as well. But we still have a process that we have been through, and it is reconciled in this actual document, and that has to be submitted by the 30th of September.
I agree.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gilbert. I will put it to a vote. Councillors, all those in favour of the motion? Those against the motion is carried. Sorry, Councillor Phelan, can I just ask that you just mute, please? Thank you. Item 7.11, the Financial Hardship Policy Additional Support. Director O'Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with details of the additional support for customers experiencing financial hardship under the COVID-19 pandemic. In response to the continued impacts of COVID-19, Council endorsed setting aside $100,000 in the 2021 budget to provide additional financial support to the customers directly impacted. This report provides the revised financial hardship policy and highlights the recommended additional support options available to them. I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director O'Sullivan. Councillors, Hansford with a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering whether there's no time frame. My only concern is there's no time frame on this. So if we said that we've put aside 100,000, does that last? And let's say, for instance, it runs out in a couple of months' time, or if that is continuing on as this pandemic looks like it may for some extended period, is there some way that we could maybe review this in a 3-month or a 6-month time frame?
Through the Mayor, it's a very good question, and we will be providing regular updates to Council. That will be monthly to provide an update on how we are tracking against the $100,000 put aside, and we will bring back a formal report in 3 months' time as a review to say how we're going along on that against that amount. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillors. Any other questions? Councillor Evans.
The 100,000, that was, in my opinion, election ploy. But putting that aside, the issue is it's going to be a lot more than $100,000 because we had the policy of which we were running with, which we have already indicated to the public. What is the expectation of that before the $100,000 was put in the budget?
So through the Mayor, the original hardship policy, we'd actually only had 2 applicants put forward for that. But I do note that we had around $40,000 of outstanding interest waived. But that was a blanket approach across all our ratepayers. This hardship policy will be only providing interest being waived for those that can provide evidence that they're actually affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
If I could reply to that, in this policy, you're just talking about interest, but in this policy document here, it's more than that.
Yes, that is correct. I'm talking about the previous policy. Now that we've updated this additional policy, we've also inbuilt in waiving $500 off the rates.
But if I could get back to the question, what was the intent of council then, the amount of money that they were going to do before the 100,000? What was a figure that management had in their head that they would be prepared to take from the budget to be able to support that?
We did not quantify that amount. We acknowledged as part of the discussion that the interest would be waived. We budget for $150,000 of outstanding interest. So we knew that's, yeah.
Look, I'll hold you there. 150 was the original estimate. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kirby.
Thank you. Just to the director, I'm just wondering, have we changed the application form to make it more user-friendly for the residents out there rather than having it like having you go through a social security document type sort of scenario?
Yes, thank you. Through the Mayor, it is a standard template and it is a standard form that is required to be completed, acknowledging that, you know, in receiving, especially now, a waiver on your rates notice, and similarly with a number of different requests you need to go through, this is a standard template that is used.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? I'll seek a mover. Moving the motion, Councillor Rowe. Second motion, Councillor Gilbert. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to say that I'm proud to be backing the financial hardship policy tonight because it's going to give a meaningful helping hand to those people in our shire who need it the most. The COVID pandemic is a once-in-a-lifetime event that no one could have foreseen, and it's had a huge impact on our daily lives. Here in Golden Plains, we know there are residents who have lost their jobs or have less work. There are businesses that have been forced to close or have reduced income. And there are farmers who have taken a big hit to their income this year. I know some will be saying farmers are the least affected, but I would like to share with you that at today's wool sale in Melbourne, 35 micron wool sold for $1 a kilogram. Pieces of the same, 50 cents a kilogram. 28 micron wool was 50 cents down on sales of recent times. Merino wool that was making 1,000 cents a kilogram is down to 600 cents a kilogram, a drop of approximately 40%. To put this in simple terms, 5 kilograms of merino wool on a sheep at 600 cents a kilogram will return.
Point of order. We don't need the stock market report. Get to the point.
I'll continue on if I can, thank you. I'm just giving you the scenario. It's not only the people, the farmers are still hit hard too, and I'm just explaining it to you, Councillor Evans. So, Mr. Mayor, can I continue?
Yeah, please continue, Councillor Rowe.
Okay. So what I was saying, if you take the shearing costs out of that wool off a sheep, there's not much left. China's the major wool buyer of wool, processing approximately 70% of wool and sell mainly to the USA and Europe. Seeing these respective countries aren't buying due to COVID, this is the main cause of these deflated wool prices. Furthermore, for those lamb producers, the price of lamb in the sale yards has fallen back considerably, as much as 50% before COVID. This year is a very different year, and as council, we have an opportunity to make a positive difference and help our Golden Plains residents and businesses when they need it. In June, when council met to discuss the budget, I seconded the proposal to set aside $100,000 to give relief to those ratepayers that were directly impacted by COVID. At the time, it made much more sense than just freezing the rates like some other councils have done. Why give the relief to those who haven't taken a financial hit when we come together, the Golden Plains community, and do more to help our neighbours who need it most? In the past few months, I've heard from many residents who agree with our decision on the financial hardship policy. And tonight, as we sit here in stage 3 restrictions, it's even clearer that this is the right decision. The financial hardship policy allows eligible ratepayers to defer their 2020 rates with no interest penalty, so they can take a break now and catch up later when they get back on track. It also knocks money off the rates for people who've lost their job due to the COVID pandemic and have taken a 30% loss of income, and reduced rates for businesses who've signed up for JobKeeper to keep going. We acknowledge that there are residents and businesses who need a helping hand now, and we want to give that without passing the burden on down the line. I believe the financial hardship policy is one of our council's best decisions, and I'm proud to put my name to it. I hope my fellow councillors will support the policy tonight so we can get the right rates relief in place for the residents and businesses that need it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to just add, Councillor Rowe has articulated it very clearly about where we stand with this policy. I think I'm pleased to hear tonight from Director O'Sullivan that we will be reviewing this at regular intervals. So we'll be getting monthly updates and that 3-monthly report. I think that's incredibly valuable because it'll give us some guidance as to how this process is being uptaken by people. I do encourage anyone who requires assistance to apply for this. I think it's not up to us councillors to make the decision as to on a face value for each individual one, but please apply. Seek the assistance that we have made available to you. It is so important that people seek it. And just let's keep reviewing it and see where we go.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gilbert, would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Evans.
Now, I'm not entirely speaking against the motion, but I must admit that in the budget meeting, when I was saying that we should have a freeze on our budget so that everybody could take benefit, it was very interesting back then that certain people, like Councillor Rowe, were saying that the farmers weren't hurting at all. And I did make the statement that we were on a long path and all things were going to change. Isn't it interesting? Only a few months later, we're now whinging about the impact that any person should be able to understand. Now, going forward with this, I have no problem with this policy whatsoever. And with it, what I would like to see, that when the people out there realise what we're trying to help them with, and if we get a flood of applications, that we step up as a council and actually fund that to help them through this, because this is tough. And I knew it back then. I'm glad a few other councils are now aware of the problem and not just being token negative about what we should put in there. We need to be compassionate, and this compassion will go on for at least another 12 months, and it could unfortunately go well beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Evans. Would any councillor like to speak for the motion? Councillor Phelan.
Yeah, I think it's a good policy. I think taking on board what Councillor Rowe said, that probably at that point of time, these weren't foreseen, but that's not really a COVID issue. I think what Councillor Evans is saying is having a go at the people that muted this in the first place. What he was going to give was a rate holiday to people, which was about between 450 and 500,000. So we've got a long way to go before we get to that. And I think it's a good policy. People have got hardship. I know it's hard for them to conform with the policy of getting the money, but if they show their cause to be provided with the rate relief or interest relief, I think it's a good thing. And I think that we've done the right thing by the people that need it the most.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phelan. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Kirby speaking against the motion. Sorry, Councillor Kirby, you are on mute.
Thank you. Once again, I did predict that we were going to have a second wave at our former meeting regarding this policy when it went to the budget. I'm afraid that $100 per household is not a lot of money to give back in return, and to waiver the rates, I believe that it's only holding off. It's not letting people have, excluding them from paying their rates. So on the other hand, yes, 100,000 is going to go somewhere, but I don't believe it's far enough. And I think that in the coming months, if we do reach a point where the $100,000 is gone from the budget, I'd like to make sure that there is money in reserve that we can put back into this fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kirby, would anyone like to speak for the motion? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Rowe, if I could ask you to close the debate. Sorry, Councillor Rowe, my apologies. You are on mute.
Yeah, sorry for that. Listen, it's good to see that most of the councillors now are agreeing with this. And just in reference to Councillor Evans, the farmers, like as a farmer, I'm not whinging. I'm just spelling it out. It's all coming to hit home to us. And as Councillor Evans has indicated, this policy is very, very flexible. So in saying that, I'd just like to finish up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rowe. I will put it to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? That is unanimous. And just on that, councillors, I just wanted to put a further emphasis on this policy. There has been a great deal of debate, and as both Councillor Rowe and Councillor Evans has made comment, that there has been much angst and financial strain on a lot of people in the community. I'm extremely proud of the decision that's been made here tonight, as I said, it does come from much commentary and discussion and from a lot of people during the budget process. On a personal note, I think this stands as one of the best decisions of my time on council, and this is one that helps those that need it the most. Some councils have chosen to give tokenistic reductions of 0.1% up to 2% reduction on their budgets, which means very little to those that will see this, as that saving will be swallowed up in house valuation increases. I've spoken to many residents and businesses that are doing it harder than normal, and I've also spoken to others that are experiencing their strongest growths during this time. Council is currently seeking employment through the Working for Victoria program to proactively assist those that are experiencing hardship, and this role will help those that are not familiar with seeking help or those that are struggling with the documentation and the like. We will be having a dedicated officer that is there to help those that need it, and not just on a financial front, but on other fronts as well, in being able to guide people to the relevant departments of assistance. Council's message during this COVID period has been to be kind, and this is a fantastic way, an initiative to help target those that need us to be kind. Thank you. Item 7.12, the 2019-2020 roll forward projects. Councillor, my apologies, Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides a summary of the projects that require to be rolled forward from the 19-20 year to the 2021 year. Number of reasons for this are around projects that span multiple years, the timing of when we've received external funding, and also the timing of some of the approval requirements, and particularly in this year in relation to delays caused through the delivery due to COVID-19. So we're rolling forward $6.5 million in capital projects and $627,000 in operational projects. And as I say, they're for the reasons as stated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director O'Sullivan. Councillors, Councillor Hansford, followed by.
Happy to move, but if there are other questions, we can take those too.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Evans with a question, was it?
Yes, I.
Or your second one,
please.
Yes,
There's a figure there in the documentation on tobacco education enforcement, which I was surprised that it'd be a council function. Is that correct?
So through the Mayor, that relates to funds, grant funds that we've received to undertake on behalf. So council undertake that on behalf.
Could I ask what activities would be in that space?
Yes, I might refer to Director Josipovic. Thank you.
Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Yes, council local laws officers are authorised officers to monitor the tobacco or no smoking, no-go zones around playgrounds, sporting facilities. State government introduced legislation in the last 2 years with I think it's at least a 20-metre buffer around playgrounds of no smoking. State government funded us to put some signs up, and also the local laws guys are authorised to monitor and enforce that requirement.
If I could follow up on that, I know that in our local law we put a new requirement in there that any council sign, the officers have now the ability to actually enforce those, but that's only coming in our new local law. Has this been around before? This ability of a officer to enforce no smoking, because I haven't seen it in the local law before.
Now, through you, Mr. Mayor, this is state legislation which sits above local law. So the state government has in the Health and Wellbeing Act legislation around smoking prohibitions and restrictions, and that's where it comes from.
Any further questions, councillors? I will look to Councillor Hansford to move the motion. Seconding the motion, Councillor Kirby Evans. So, Councillor Kirby. Councillor Hansford, when you're ready, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, this is to note the program's roll forward. All information is in the documentation. Happy to move. Thank you.
Councillor Kirby, seconding the motion.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I look forward to these projects going ahead in the future. We know that there's a lot of businesses out there that will be looking for work and to look forward to projects coming forward. So on behalf of council, I think this will be a great move forward for our businesses within the Shire. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kirby, would any councillor like to speak against the motion? With nobody speaking against the motion, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 7.13, the review of instrument delegation. Council to members of staff. Director O'Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report highlights the exercises conferred by the legislation in relation to the instrument of delegation. This is really a procedural requirement. Well, there's two components. The first component is relating to the procedural requirements as part of the new Local Government Act 2020, and also some updates in relation to cosmetic changes and to be consistent with the MADIX requirements. But I also note there's a recommended change in relation to the delegations under the Planning and Environment Act, and I will refer to Director Josipovic to speak to that one if anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you.
Councillors, sorry, Director. Yes, right.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to summarise the issue around the proposed planning changes. As council will know, the effective functioning of council's statutory planning department relies heavily on the delegation of decision-making responsibilities to professional planning staff. Delegation offers a number of significant advantages to council and the community, including the council has more time to address higher order strategic matters and initiatives, and that council officers take more responsibility for giving advice and decision making and are able to provide consistent and informed advice to applicants and objectors. The proposed change we have flagged before you tonight is related to 2 lot subdivisions only. And the change is that the council delegates decision making for 2 lot subdivisions with less than 5 objections to council officers. To support this proposal, we've done some analysis of all 2 lots subdivision applications that have come in to council since 2018. There have been 10 in total. 2 of those were for refusal and 8 were for decisions to grant a planning permit. In all cases, council supported the officer recommendation in those instances. And as I said, that is the basis upon which we have put the proposal to council tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Josipovic. Councillors, is there any questions? Councillor Kirby, followed by Councillor Evans. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Kirby, you're on mute.
Thank you. My question to Mr. Josipovic is, I'm just concerned that if we drop it down to 5 objectors, under 5, that we're taking away the democracy of the people. And at the moment, we know that, there's been 8 for, 2 against, but that's what we're here as councillors to do.
Councillor Kirby, sorry. Is there a question there? I feel you're speaking for or against a motion. Is there a question to the director, please? And then happy for you to speak for or against afterwards, but questions only, please.
So the point is, does he feel that it's fair that if you're in a small rural lot, for example, where there's not a lot of objectors in that area, that they could be feeling biased against because it's not a built-up area?
Sorry, Councillor Kirby, your question to your question to the
that it's biased against
someone. Sorry, just your question to the director is a personal question and asking for his personal opinion. I don't feel that is relevant.
I'm not being biased. I'm just putting it out there for the rural people that might not have a lot of people who live in their street or any other street within the Shire.
Sorry, Councillor, I'm not going to debate with you, but the opportunity for councillors to ask directors questions is relevant to the report. The question, when you use the words, how do you feel, is asking a director for a personal opinion, which I don't feel is.
I'm not asking his personal opinion. I'd just like to ask him the question, is it relevant that only 5 objectors, should not be listened to?
Again, Councillor Kirby, I feel that's a personal question of a director, how they feel. We are here as the elected councillors to make these decisions. I feel that the question to the director is asking for his opinion. He is not an elected councillor. The opportunity for councillors is to ask the directors questions relevant to the report, not how they feel about the report.
Yeah, well, they're the ones that have brought it to us, so I'm just asking the question back. Is it relevant in all areas and for rural areas as well, not just suburban areas within the Shire?
Director Josipovic, would you like to respond?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The proposed change is based on one of looking to improve efficiency with our how we process applications. Perhaps, and I won't offer a personal opinion, clearly, because I don't think that would be appropriate. But in terms of how many we process, I take on board Councillor Kirby's concerns about whether people get an equal say, etc. But It should also be remembered that during that same time period where we had 10 applications come to council, there were 66 applications that were determined by officers because they didn't attract any objections. In terms of there is a statutory process, so every person has the right to make an objection, and every person has the right to lodge an appeal at VCAT if they're not satisfied with a decision, whether it's made by council or whether it's made by officers under delegation. That's the process, that's the framework that's legislated, and that's the one that we work under.
Thank you. I just wanted to get that point across. Thanks, Phil.
Sorry, Councillor Evans was a quick question for Councillor Evans.
Now, the question here is regarding what we're handling here. This is actually an alternate motion for an item within the document, and I don't think we're handling it correctly procedurally. I think.
Sorry, Councillor Evans. There is no motion on the table at all. We're not in debate.
Exactly. This was a singular item in the document that has yet to be looked at and discussed by council. And that is why it has been flagged to be looked at here. And that is my issue. We need to look at this as a singular item and do the debate around what we choose, what we feel would be.
Councillor Evans, is there a question now? I'm happy if someone moves the motion and everything that you say is better in that forum. Is there any further questions before I seek someone to move a motion? So I'll seek a mover. Moving the motion, Councillor Phelan. Seconding the motion. My apologies. Seconding the motion, Councillor Gilbert. My apologies as my screen's a little bit jumpy. Councillor Phelan, speaking for the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I think that this is an opportunity for us to speed up these applications. I think that if you look at the backlog of applications we have, this is just an instrument moving forward where if you have less than 5 objectors, we go ahead and grant the permit, give the staff that opportunity. As Phil has just mentioned, they have the right to go to VCAT if they want to, and that's the way that it is. And I think that we've got, the way this shire is growing and growing, we've got to be more efficient and more speedy about the way we process applications. And I think it's a move in the right direction.
Councillor Gilbert, seconding the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Phelan. The one thing I would like to say, though, is in relation to the 2-lot subdivisions, I know we've had the number of subdivisions, we've followed the recommendation and gone against the recommendation told to us tonight. We're interesting to know how many of those were in areas that had no neighbours, which is, I think, what Councillor Kirby is sort of alluding to, that there might be a 2-lot subdivision that only has one neighbour and therefore their objection doesn't come to council. I think the point is a little bit lost because some of these 2-lot subdivisions are happening in areas where there are lots of neighbours.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gilbert, would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Evans.
Look, fundamentally, we've got to keep in mind that most councillors are not aware of a problem in an area unless there are objections, and the number of objections is a trigger point that we then get to see it in council. Now, if you want to streamline everything, then take away all objections, okay? We'll never do anything. As a final court of justice for our resident, which we, the councillors, are, we will not have that. So I am concerned 5 is too many, okay? And I believe we should be looking closer to a lower level. It might be that 2 would be the trigger point, And I fully comprehend Councillor Kirby's issues in regarding where these places are, because people have natural rights, and to force them to have to go to VCAT is our responsibility is to try to make it better for our residents. We don't want to put them through a legal turmoil just for them to stand up for their rights. And they have rights. And we have to remember that. That's why we're here, to support them whenever we can. So my alternate here is that we choose what we consider a better point where we give the officer's recommendation. And my point would be no higher than, if there's 2 objectors, they can make the decision, but no higher. It must come to council.
So my apologies. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Kirby.
Unmute. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and for your words, Councillor Evans. You know, this is why we're elected into council, to be a voice of the ratepayers. So, you know, I strongly agree that I think 2 objectors is still far too many, but at the same time, we have to be reasonable, and we just cannot have people running off to VCAT and forking out money when they don't have to, you know, like, all right, the odds are against 8-2, for and against, but the thing is, those 2 that have, that did get passed were for valid reasons. So everything's not an open and shut case. So we must be listening to our residents as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kirby. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Against the motion?
Mr. Mayor, can I clarify something on, is that not possible?
What is the clarification?
My clarification was I was a bit confused as to whether Councillor Evans was raising an alternative motion at some point.
I don't believe there was an alternative motion. I've been speaking for and against the motion, so I don't believe there was.
If I could respond to that, this is the difficulty with this particular item.
Sorry, can Councillor Evans do a point of order if you want to?
Well, I will call point of order because it goes back to why I made the comment at the beginning, because this is a particular thing that has to be discussed and resolved before we actually put a motion up that actually would then define what we were comfortable to accept. Okay, I'm quite happy to call for an alternate motion within this debate. It's a and I agree, it is a tricky one procedurally, so, and unfortunate.
So what I have at the moment is a current motion that has been forwarded and seconded, spoken against and for, and I will need to bring the debate, if there's no one speaking for or against, bring it to an end, ask the mover to close the debate. Is there anyone that hasn't spoken that would like to speak for or against the motion? With nobody else, is that a point of order, Councillor Kirby?
No, I'd like to second the alternative motion though.
Sorry, Councillor Kirby, I have not received a motion being put. So I've given everyone the opportunity. There was a point of clarification. From my perspective, I have not been given that. So if anyone else would like to speak for or against, I will ask Councillor Phelan to close the debate. Councillor Hansford.
With a alternate, I would propose that we change 5 to 3.
So now I do have a alternative motion, and then that would be that. So
Really, the only word that would change within the document would be that 5 would be made 3.
So, and my apologies, Councillor Hansford. So what we have at the moment is a motion that's been put and seconded. If you did want to foreshadow, you do have the ability to foreshadow if this motion is lost. Another motion.
Take your point, and I take your point, and I would foreshadow, should this motion be defeated, that we would change the wording in the document from 5 to 3.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hansford. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the current motion? With nobody else seeking a motion, I'll ask Councillor Phelan to close the debate. And if the debate is lost, we will come back to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we may be splitting hairs under 5 or to 3, but I believe that this is a step forward. I understand that people are saying, or council are saying, people cost the money to go to VCAT. I thought the way VCAT worked was that people were able to go there and it didn't cost them any money, except if they wanted their own legal representation. I may well be wrong, but I think that we are going to streamline this. We saw one tonight where it went through, a 2-lot subdivision in Bannockburn. So I think that what we're doing here is trying to speed the process up, and we do give everybody a fair go. And I'm quite sure if officers were really concerned about a decision they could or couldn't make, it would come to council. I trust our officers to make those type of decisions. That's why we pay them money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phelan. Councillors, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour of the current motion? Those against the motion? The motion is lost. And then I will come back to Councillor Hansford, who is putting forward the motion exactly the same as it was, only we are now moving from 5 objectors down to 3 objectors. Is that correct, Councillor Hansford?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hansford. Could I have someone second the motion? Second the motion, Councillor Kirby. Councillor Hansford, to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think everything's been said on this. Councillor Evans has really made a strong point about having 5 objections is quite a lot. And I think the democracy process in this case would run better if we're at the 3 rather than the 5. Thank you.
Councillor Kirby.
Thank you. Yes, I feel that everything has been said, and I still think that we've got to look forward to it being a democratic society, people having a say. And all right, we're down to 3 people, which is still, still a high number in some areas, but I can deal with that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kirby. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Evans.
I would like to move an alternate motion that it's brought down to 2.
Sorry, Councillor Evans, and just to repeat what I did in the last one, you have the opportunity to foreshadow. I'm repeating what I said to Councillor Hansford.
Quite happy to foreshadow.
Thank you very much, Councillor Evans, foreshadowing an amendment there. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Against the motion? Sorry, Councillor Evans, you have already spoken against the motion and
Oh, sorry,
foreshadowed.
I thought you were calling vote.
Yeah, no, sorry. Councillor Hansford will ask to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we're really splitting hairs now. We're talking 3s and 2s. 5 down to 3, I think, is a good shift that puts a mix in between the efficiencies that were being sought at 5 and the democratic process at 3. Happy to move 3, and I think we really are really splitting hairs at 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hansford. I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Those against the motion? So I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? I'll support that motion. And those against the motion? The motion is carried. Item 7.14, Local Government Act 2020 implementation documents for adoption. Director O'Sullivan, please, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In order to achieve compliance with the Local Government Act 2020, the following documents needed to be adopted, being the governance rules, which also included the public participation, council meeting policy and election period policy, and also the public transparency policy. In July 2020, these documents went out for public exhibition, and we received three submissions, and those submissions are included as part of an attachment. As we now present these back to Council for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director O'Sullivan. Councillors, is there any questions? Councillor Evans.
I'd like to move an alternate motion, which actually had been put up by Candice.
No worries, Councillor Evans. I'll come back to you, Councillor Evans. Councillors, is there any questions? If there's no questions, I'm happy to take the alternative. A motion that has been put by Councillor Evans, which has been circulated with the inclusion of point 4, that this, to bring a report back to the 21st of September 2020 council meeting to consider a further review of the governance rules. Are you happy with that, Councillor Evans?
Yes.
And I believe it's just coming up on our screens now. And that should be there for all to see. And then item number 4, to bring a report back on the 21st September 2020 council meeting to consider a further review of the governance rules. Can I seek a seconder to the current motion? My apologies as I just bring up. My apologies, I've just lost a few people on screen. So sorry, I can see everyone now. I have a mover, Councillor Evans. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Kirby seconding the motion. Councillor Evans to speak to the motion.
I'm just checking my screen is on. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, we can, Councillor Evans. I think when that screensaver comes up, it does change our screen. So I think that's back to normal now.
Yeah, look, the reason this was important because the situation, we had the public submissions that come in on this. Now, unfortunately, councils weren't able to do actually debate, well, not actually debate, but actually discuss those suggestions that came from the submitters. And I think it's fair and reasonable that we actually go through that process, which will basically be done in the September briefing, so that we have a better understanding of what, you know, we have to basically react to the submissions, and we didn't actually do it in this situation. I think it's fair and reasonable for us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Evans. Councillor Kirby, seconding the motion.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Evans on what he's just spoken about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kirby. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? With nobody speaking against the motion, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. Item 7.15, the Geelong Regional Library Corporation endorsement of Colac Otway Shire Council membership. Director Latik, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This report seeks Council's endorsement of the inclusion of Colac Otway Shire Council in Geelong's Regional Library Corporation as an additional member alongside the City of Greater Geelong, the Borough of Queenscliff, Surf Coast Hire and ourselves. Colac Otway Shire have been exploring options for future service provision, which has included the possibility of becoming a member of the Geelong Regional Library Corporation. The Geelong Regional Library Corporation, at its meeting of the 24th of June, accepted this application subject to each individual member councillor's endorsement. The current Colac Otway Shire Library service includes Colac Library, Apollo Bay Library and a mobile library service. There's strong strategic and geographic alignment between Colac Otway Shire and ourselves and the greater G21 region, and Colac Otway Shire are already represented with us on a whole range of partnerships such as the G21 pillars, arts and heritage, culture and education and training. Being a member of the Geelong Regional Library Corporation will give greater strength to this collaboration. There's also potentially some efficiencies for Golden Plains Shire, including reduction in costs and greater access to a wider collection service. This recommendation requires a council to endorse consideration of the endorsement of Colac Otway Shire joining the Regional Library Corporation, as well as authorising the Chief Executive Officer to execute with the council seal, in accordance with local law number 1, a supplementary agreement to our current agreement for our membership with the Library Corporation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Latik. Councillors, any questions? With no questions, I'll seek a mover.
I'll move, Mr. Mayor.
Moving Councillor Anderson, seconding Councillor Lowe.
Horrible interference there of some sort.
Nathan, Councillor Hanson.
Hopefully that noise is gone now. There's some horrible feedback just then. Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Much of what I'm going to say is echoing Lisa's words, but basically I believe this is a natural progression of services in the Barwon Southwest. Colac Otway Shire is a member of the G21. It shares tourism with the Great Ocean Road, and geographically Geelong is Colac's closest major centre. Colac residents conduct a lot of their business in Geelong currently, from shopping to education to doctors and specialist services, and the Warren Pond Shopping Centre and the New Epworth Hospital and medical services there are recent additions that make it easy for Colac residents to utilise Geelong services. The addition of the Colac Otway libraries will add another 40,000 items to the Geelong Regional Library Corporation collection. Colac has 8 stops on their mobile library, so this will make the costs for our mobile library service shared amongst that. We look at back of house systems and a multitude of things like annual subscriptions. By sharing these services across the corporation. It will lower overall operating costs, improve services, and it will provide job opportunities for people between Geelong and Colac and surrounding areas as well. So I believe this is a win-win all round. Thank you.
Very much, Councillor Hansford. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, look, this is pretty straightforward. This is, and look, I want to join, and yeah, we've got to be part of the team to agree. So it wasn't long back where we decided, I think it was Queenscliff wanted to come on board, and we agreed to them. So it's no real big fizz, to be honest with you. So yeah, thank you.
Sorry, and would any councillor like to speak against the motion? If nobody speaking against the motion, I will put it to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. There is no notices of motion, no petitions, no urgent business. We do have a confidential report for discussion, which brings us to the end of this live recording, and that item will be discussed in the meeting closed thereafter. So I believe the recording will stop after this item. And again, thank you very much for everyone that's tuned in tonight. Our apologies for a couple of little hiccups through there, but I think by and large we did pretty good for our first go on that